Welcome to the third episode of the Coltist podcast. I am your cult leader, Colton, and today's episode will be on the Anthill Kids. A couple of things before we start. One, if you think of a logo design or any improvements I can make to the podcast, leave them in the comments. Or if you're listening somewhere where you can't, you can DM me on Instagram at the Coltist616, Coltist spelled Coltist. Also, we are on, or I say we, but it's just me, but I am on. The podcast is on many other places you can listen, such as YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, Breaker, Google Podcast, Pocket Cast, and Radio Public. Anyways, time to get into it. Warning: this will be a very gruesome episode, is the way you could put it. There will be themes of abuse, not so professional surgeries, child abuse, and extreme punishments. And remember, there is bad in the world, but there's much more good in the world. And as long as people try to be the good part of the world, as long as people try to be the good in the world, then it'll be a better place for everyone. Also, one part is pretty graphic, and I will have a timestamp in the comments to skip it. And if you're somewhere else, it'll be like 30 to like 40 seconds that you'll have to skip. I'll give a warning before then. Anyways, let's get on to it. Let's first talk about the leader, Rock Thurelton. Thurelt, I think is how you pronounce it. But he eventually started going by Moses, and because of course he did. I'm gonna call him Moses or Rock, because it's like rock spelled ROCH. It's French because they're from Canada, like the French part of Canada. Anyways, Rock dropped out of school to teach himself the Old Testament, as he was very obsessed with the apocalypse and was convinced that a war of good versus evil was soon, and with it the end of the world. He joined the Seventh-day Adventist Church and followed all their rules, such as no tobacco, no unhealthy food, no drugs or alcohol. During one of his speeches, he convinced a group to quit their jobs and to start making their own group they called the Anthill Kids because they worked hard, like ants. They stayed part of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. They made money, made a life selling baking goods. The rules of the group started to get strict, and they were too much and got kicked out of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Rock, then prophesied that the end of the world would be in 1979. So, to be safe from God's wrath and the end of the world, they moved into Canadian wilderness, where the rules were even more strict, such as no one could talk if Rock was not around, and he had to listen to every conversation. And if you tried to leave, you would be beaten with a belt or hammer. Spoiler alert, the world didn't end in 1979, and even though Rock said nothing about it and was just like, "Oh, I guess I was wrong," or "I wasn't wrong, God is just on a different, time zone." It still or the members still trusted him, and there was really no effect. They all had like deep Stockholm syndrome, where they were just whatever he said, and he was charismatic, as all cult leaders really are. But no matter what he did, they would still listen to him, and you'll see some extreme examples later on. Rock ended up having 26 kids with multiple women in his commune. The children who were abused would get nailed to trees, have rocks thrown at them from the other kids. Then the worst was with two who ended up tragically passing away. One during a failed circumcision which Rock performed himself, and the other froze after being locked outside as punishment. Rock, I think that's how you pronounce it, by the way. I'm probably saying it way wrong. It's ROCH. But who, if anyone was sick, would perform the surgeries himself with kitchen utensils, pliers, or a blowtorch. Most would lose limbs, fingers, teeth, and toes. He really was a terrible person. One of the surgeries that he did, and this is the part where you skip if you don't want to hear it. I wish I could unread it, but gotta say it. In the YouTube comments, you'll see a timestamp. Uh, Anywhere else, skip it 30, 40 seconds ahead. Uh, Anyways, one woman who had a stomach ache, her surgery was getting laid on a table, got her stomach cut open, and with his bare hands, Moses, Rock, I'm going to start calling him Moses now, by the way, but grabbed and pulled out part of her intestine. Had someone else who had no experience sew her back up. Then he shoved a tube down her throat and had all the other women breathe into it. The woman died 2 days later, just in suffering. He attempted to resurrect her in a way that is too terrible, and I refuse to say, and it didn't work, and it involved cutting a hole in her head. Some of the punishments that he would do, and this is also part that, is this entire, story is not good, but some of the punishment that Moses would do would have some members break their own legs with a sledgehammer, have them shoot each other in the shoulder, force them to eat feces, insects, and rats. He would have them sit on a stove and burn themselves, and he would have them stand naked in the cold Canadian winter and whip and beat them. The ending of the Anthill Kids. The end of the Anthill Kids. After a near-death experience, Gabriella Larley, I think is how you pronounce it, who was subjected to a blowtorch to the genitals, 8 teeth removed, and a hypodermic needle broken into her spine. She wanted to leave, and she did leave. She escaped, but she relied on the cult too much and went back by choice and told Moses of her escape. That made him furious. As punishment, he cut off her finger, nailed her hand to a table, amputated her arm with a hunting knife. She still stayed in the cult. The final straw was when part of her breast got amputated and her head got smashed in with an axe. That's when she left, reported the cult to the authorities, and they were freed in 1989. Even though some still stayed and were working because the leader told them to, that even if he died, they would have to keep working. The leader, Moses, got life in prison and died in 2011 in jail when his cellmate stabbed him in the neck. His cellmate went to the guards and told him, he is downrange. Here's the knife. I've sliced him up good. And yeah, his body was found, and that was pretty much, they found him in the back. Or not. Yeah. Anyways. This episode, it was a long rabbit hole that I went down, learning about it. It was really cool. Hopefully this makes up for a missing episode last week. I was pretty busy. There will be 2 episodes this week, another on Friday. Also, thanks for all the support, of course. This has been episode 3 of the Coltist podcast. And always remember, be the good in the world, and goodbye.